Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4. And hopefully, I'm not lagging at the start of this one. Boggy, Mr. Like Juicy Lag, so people don't see my awesome Inglorious Bastards reference. Welcome to episode 4, where we are burgeoning onto the heroic raid release for midnight. Obviously, we got to wait another week for season 1 to release, where we have M Plus open, but it is a very, very exciting time to be a WoW fan. Start of any expansion is exactly the most exciting time to be into a game. I think it's one of the things that like makes things like Path of Exile really compelling, where you've got like league restarts, everybody's starting at zero, everybody's rushing to get their stuff done, and it's like kind of cool to be a part of that process. I feel the same with WoW, and we've got a couple of things for us to talk about this week because we have class tuning upcoming. We have daily lockouts for M0 dropping Hamtrack gear. And generally speaking, we are going to have the game open up to us in a very wide way. And most importantly, for sweaty fucking nerds like me, we have the Race War First coming out. We're going to see what Echo and Liquid are going to be running in terms of classes, splits, all that sort of stuff, and getting ready for Mythic to release with the release of Season 1. So, Boggy, how has your previous week been? How did your world tours go? Obviously, we streamed one where we did the Guardian Druid, which is absolutely perfect, needs no changes whatsoever, was doing perfectly reasonable numbers, and I'm
Can't
certain
believe.
Boggy will probably have B-roll playing as we're talking right now of him doing perfectly normal numbers for a tank. How's your first week been? Oh, well, how has the week before Heroic release been for you, bud?
Pretty good. Honestly, a lot of the play has been more for the love of the game than anything else. I think it sort of only came to light recently that it was daily lockout champ track gear from M0s next week, which does make veteran track farming in M0s at the moment feel a little bit obsolete. But in saying that, like I, like many others, don't just play the game for the stuff that you get in it. I actually just like doing dungeons. So, so this is just a me thing. I just like playing, man. It's not super like I'll probably do my last world tour before Wednesday on my Vengeance Demon Hunter just because like I feel like it, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sad for Guardian Druid for anyone who hasn't seen. It got I believe, what totaled to somewhere between a 32 and a 40% overall DPS nerf. So
And to be clear,
it kind of needed
it
it too.
did kind of deserve it. Like Boggy and I were running our M0, and hopefully there is footage to sort of back this up as we're going. I don't know how much Boggy was capturing, but there were some pulls where I was really struggling to meet Bog's numbers, and my Windwalker is not undergeared by any means, and Windwalker is in like an okay spot at the moment in terms of DPS, but like, but
There was some
uh,
boss fights where I would get to the end of it at like 60k over like DPS for that fight. Like
yeah, yeah, on a single
across
target
on a
boss.
single
Yeah,
target boss in an M0, which like as much as it was very fun, it was not in a stable spot. Don't know whether so it's sort of hard to tell. I think the general consensus was needed. It is kind of sad that that amount of damage is gone for anyone who had a bear, but I don't know. You do like they kind of had to do it. So, but no,
I
it's
mean, yeah, and so like exact numbers for people that don't know, Moonless Knight causes you direct damage melee abilities to deal 20% additional damage, was 40%. Wild Guardian rank 4 now causes echoes to deal 300%, was 150. So I'm not a Guardian player, but Wild Guardian echoes dealing more. Ability damage excluding Moonfire reduced by 20%. Moonfire reduced by 10%. Druid of the Claw, damage dealt by Ravage to its main target reduced by 27. Druid of the Claw, damage dealt by Dreadful Wound reduced by 23%. Druid of the Claw, Killing Blow now increases Maul, Raise, and Ravage damage by up to 70% based on Rage was 100%. Druid of the Claw, Strike for the Heart now increases Mangle damage by 10% was 20. Bestial Strength now increases Maul, Raise, and Ravage damage by 10% was 20. There is actually something that I think is a little bit sad, is that the other hero talents get a sideways nerf because of this. I don't know if Wild Guardian accounts for some of the damage they'll lose. A lot of this stuff was Druid of the Claw specific because that is what everybody was running. That's where the big damage was coming from. But they still have had to eat Moonless Night nerfs, 20% ability damage nerfs, and 10% on Moonfire.
The thing is, from what I understand, is Elun's Chosen, even if you just pretended that Druid of the Claw didn't exist, I think Elun's Chosen was also doing quite good damage anyway.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from my very basic understanding, this hasn't neutered Bear by any stretch. It's probably just put it into the position that a tank should be.
I mean, 30% less damage on when you were doing 60k single target is what? That's 20k less. You're doing 40k overall as a tank.
Yep, which is
Sorry,
still
40
pretty...
not overall. 40k single target, which is fine.
Yep.
I've been running in M0s where DPS didn't hit those numbers. Now, obviously, they're not like top tier players playing at the top of their spec with really good gear, whatever. But like,
I think that's
we
60K
cleared
that I
M0s
used,
very easily with DPS doing less single target numbers than that and being carried by like 1 or 2 key people.
And that 60k that I used was probably on a fight like the second boss of Nexus Point with the damage amp in the middle. So I think the, the average might be closer to like 35 pre-nerf, which is going to turn into like mid-20s, which for single target on a tank is like, you know, yeah, they're not cranking anymore, but like
it's fine.
Not,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I think all of the tanks are actually doing, it's actually a very high tank damage season in general. All of the tanks are actually doing very good damage. Like bar none, realistically. It's all about tankiness now because Prot Warrior just got a roughly 10% damage buff.
Okay.
Vengeance Demon Hunter got somewhere in that region as well. They left my boy Shadow Pan Monk alone, so I'm very
excellent. You're the monk, baby.
Actually, no. What I mean is, it's already terrible. Nobody look into it, Blizzard.
No, we're already into week 1 tuning. They're going to see Race to World first numbers. You don't need to sandbag anymore. It's good. It's good.
Okay,
we're fine.
Cool,
we're fine.
cool.
You can say what you want.
All right, no more sandbagging. Yeah, so they like typically though, I think all of the tanks are actually fairly good in terms of their damage output now. It's now just a question of, at least for Mythic Plus, because I guess for Raid, the question is always how much single target damage does this tank do? It's realistically all that you're looking for in a tank in Raid. It's kind of rare that you're looking for much else other than maybe like filling a Raid buff if the class itself is kind of
That's really what like top end guilds will be doing. Outside of that, for the mom and pop Raid guild that's like just wanting clear heroic or whatever, just tanks doing good damage, or even just for the game in general, is really good. If tanks are doing good damage, it makes keys a little bit easier. They don't feel like it's a training dummy that you're taking with you. Better for like threat generation because the more damage they're dealing, the harder it is for DPS to rip threat off them, all that sort of good stuff. Now I want to run through just like very, very quick cut buffs, nerfs in the patch. I'm not going to speak to whether it is, moving how good something is, especially on classes I don't play at the moment. I don't like speaking about something if I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I wish the rest of the world would do that. So, Blood Death Knights. Buffs across the board. Everything says increases. So Reaper's Mark, Exterminate, Wave of Souls, Deathly Blows, Blind in Darkness. Unholy cops an overall 20% nerf, but Epidemic goes up 10% and Virulent Plague goes up 15%.
I've heard some conflicting views on the Unholy changes as well. Apparently it will make them feel quite clunky from what I understand. So
yeah, I did see that there was some discourse around there were some incorrect sims that were showing Unholy doing more than they actually were. And obviously, like, we don't see what data Blizzard is looking at, so we'll have to see how this plays out. I do know that every time I was playing with Unholy DKs just across like M0s, whatever else, they looked like they were doing really well, so we'll see how this turns out. Devourer, all damage dealt, reduced by 4%. Just a strict 4% nerf. Havoc Demon Hunter just got buffed to the fucking nines. All damage by 6% increase. Immo Aura up by 10. Burning Wound bonus to Immo Aura reduced to 35%, was 40%. So Burning Wound, not quite as good anymore, but 5% to Immolation Aura damage is, compared to everything else that they're getting, is like nothing. Rage Fire damage increased 35% of Immola's crit damage. Essence Break up 10%. Glaive Tempest up 10%. Eldrachi Reaver, which has not been in a good state, just got a number of buffs. Reaver's Glaive up by 8%. Fury of the Eldrachi damage increased by 8%. Thrill of the Fight bonus haste increased to 8%, was 6. Reaver's Mark damage bonus up to 6%, was 5%. And Wounded Quarry effect increased to 25% of physical damage, was 20%. That is a number of key abilities just on top of the 6% all damage increase. So
We still
Havoc Demon Hunter.
play Annihilator as that would be the Vengeance changes, right? Or was that was that
No,
Havoc?
so Vengeance is
Okay.
all damage by 10%, Immo Aura by 10%, Eldrachi Reaver, Wounded Quarry 20% was 15, Reaver's Glaive up 8, Fury of the Eldrachi up 8, and Thrill of the Fight bonus haste to 8 was 6. So they share some of this stuff with Reaver.
Yep.
Yeah. But Havoc gets a few key buffs that I even saw that Shad is very, very happy with. So if Shad is saying, yep, very happy with this, then you know it's probably good for Demon Hunters.
Can comment on the Demon Hunter a little bit as well. It seems as if Devourer is still going to be the highest output DPS spec. Havoc got a lot of its funnel back, so that's going to very much increase its viability in keys again. And as for Vengeance, we still play Annihilator, even though they were all Eldrachi Reaver buffs. It just means that you're not trolling if you play Eldrachi.
Yeah.
But Annihilator is still the pick out of the two for anyone who is curious.
Moving on to the Druids, the other three specs. Resto, very simple, all healing reduced by 6%. Balanced Druids are eating fucking great. All damage by 20%, Star Surge by 8%, Starfall decreased by 14%, Wrath damage increased by 10%. Elune's Chosen, Lunar Calling increases Starfall's damage to your primary target by 120%, up from 100. Now, all of those changes I spoke about do not apply in PvP.
About a 20% AoE buff and an 8%-ish single target buff for balance from what I can gather. Like, obviously, yeah, don't quote me on the exact numbers because I may get them off a little bit, but that's roughly where they see it.
But that's not all, Bog, because as soon as they get their 2 and 4 set, Season 1 set 2-piece, increased shooting star damage by 40% was 50%, so a small reduction on that. And shooting stars outside Eclipse generate 2 astral power was 3. 4-piece chance for Star Surge or Starfall to generate an exploding shooting star reduced to 30% was 40%. And Season 1 set armor 4-piece fixed a bug causing the exploding shooting star to increment orbit breakers count by 1 for every target hit. It now always counts as 1 shooting star as intended. So the set bonus obviously takes a directed nerf, but that is likely just to factor in that all of their base abilities before you have a set piece have been buffed by a substantial 20% all damage is not something that anybody should sneeze at. It is kind of incredible.
Very big. Very big.
And then you've got Feral, which was watching bears eating their lunch and not being able to say anything about it. All damage increased by 6%. Rake bleed damage increased by 20%. Rip damage increased by 10%. Swipe by 10%. Rampant Ferocity, 10. Unseen Swipe, 15. Frantic Frenzy damage reduced by 10%. And Fix the Bug causing Frantic Frenzy to hit 6 times instead of 5. So, small nerf on Frantic Frenzy, but 6% all buff and then a bunch of their bleeds, and the abilities are going to be pressing quite a bit.
It's a fairly substantial damage increase. I don't know the actual number, but it is large.
Yep.
Maybe not balanced druid large, but it's a big buff. Like when you put it all together.
Evoker's Devastation Scale Commander was what you were taking just all the time. Mass Disintegrate damage bonus for each missing target reduced to 10% was 15%. This is strictly a single target or 2 target nerf. Greater in single target, but Scale Commander Devastation was still doing really, really well. And they're still going to have plenty of damage coming from other sources. So this is maybe warranted, but I'll leave it to Evokers to actually talk about. Augmentation. Mass Eruption damage bonus for each missing target reduced to 10% was 15. That's Scale Commander staying parity across the board. Molten Ember's damage bonus reduced to 15% was 25. Duplicate rank 4 stat bonuses reduced to 75% was 100%. And fix an issue that could cause mote's possibility to apply their buff to a target other than the ally who came in contact with the mote, which would obviously be a very frustrating bug to have, yeah. All right, Prez Evoker. Rewind healing increased to 200% outside of raid was 100. Big buff to party play. Rewind healing is no longer increased by 67% in PvP combat. Marithra's Blessing increased the direct healing of Dream Breath by 250% was 125. Dream Breath's direct healing increased by 20%. Marithra's Blessing reverses 1% damage was 2% on targets with reversion. And reversion healing increased by 25% at base. So big buffs for Prez. We'll see if healers are happy with that, but that is two things that I can see where the effect got doubled on abilities that I think they're using like all the time. All right, survival. Is this going to be Year of the Spear? Probably not, but we'll see. Auto attack damage increased by 35%. For those who don't know, melee DPS actually get a fair chunk of their damage from auto attacks. So this is not something to sneeze at. It's not like their biggest damage ability is getting buffed. But Wildfire Bomb primary target damage bonus increased to 80% was 60%. So that is a primary ability that does a lot of damage. Raptor Strike damage increased by 10%. Raptor Swipe now deals 35 to 70 increased damage to its primary target was 25-50. So that is a big single target buff. And Sentinel Fix an issue caused a Sanctified Armaments to be modified by damage taken and damage dealt increases. Beast Mastery, Barb Shot up by 35, Cobra Shot up by 100%, and Dark Ranger Black Arrow initial damage increased by 50%. Marksman, you don't get anything. Sentinel, this is across the board. It looks like the Sanctified Armaments not being modified by damage taken, damage dealt. So that is Hunter. I have seen that the Race to War First is having a number of Hunters leveled, which makes sense. I mean, the Hunter's Mark is still a great raid buff. And having a number of players that can switch in and out in terms of your, even just for like male stacking, I think there's a couple of good male classes that are going to be pivotal for bringing their raid buffs in the Race to War First. Yeah, having hunters on deck is always a good thing. All right, Mage. No changes for Frost, which is fine. Like Frost was already in an okay position. A couple of things that make me sad. Couple of things that make me happy. Arcane. Arcane Blast damage increased by 25%. Arcane Barrage up by 15%. Arcane Cleaving additional targets reduced to 40% of barrage damage was 60%. Spell Slinger Splintering Orbs damage bonus reduced to 10% was 25%. This is already got a nerf from the pre-patch. So this is a nerf, which, yeah. And then Spell Slinger Controlled Instincts Cleave percentage reduced to 40% was 60%. I think this is Blizzard's attempt to move us away from just playing an orb build, but at the moment, Spellslinger really only works with orbs. We don't press arcane missiles, and this isn't going to change that. What they need to do is actually incentivize us to press missiles, not make orbs worse. So this is a single target increase. Barrage going up by 15% is nice, but then a lot of our supporting talents coming back down. I haven't looked at any sims for this, but like, yeah. And then Fire, this made me really sad. Ignition now increases Flame Strike's ignite damage by 15% was 50. I was really excited by how Fire was looking. Season 1 set, 2-piece now increases Pyroblast and Flame Strike damage was by 6% was 8. Season 1 4 set, Fire Blast cooldown reduction to 0.3 from 0.5. But in compensation, Fireball damage up 15%, Frostfire Bolt damage up by 15%. We are not playing Frostfire at the moment. And Fire Blast damage increased by 25%. So this is an AoE nerf, a small nerf to our quality of life because of the Fire Blast cooldown reduction by our set pieces. And obviously getting Fireball and Fire Blast up is good in terms of our single target damage. So small AoE nerf, small single target buff. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I don't like seeing nerfs for my classes, but that's just because I'm a sweaty power gamer. Like that's not on Blizzard. And now to the part that really made me sad. Monk. No Windwalker changes at all.
This
I
part
was
made me
hoping-
happy. I liked the monk section.
Yeah, because you play tank.
Yeah.
You play tank. I'm an unga bunga, I press button, make number go big DPS player. So Brewmaster, just for Master of Harmony. Meditative Focus now increases damage dealt by Tiger Palm by an additional 50%, was 100, so Master of Harmony did cop a nerf there. Aspect of Harmony stores vitality based on 12% of damage and 6% of effective healing, was 25 and 12. So Shadowpan left alone, Master of Harmony nerfed.
No impact for Mythic Plus, basically. Master of Harmony was probably doing like insanely high single target damage. But from what I understand, Shadowpan was the pick in high level Mythic Plus anyway. So like effectively unchanged. It's in the same spot as it was.
And that is what made me sad about Windwalker. They nerfed our conduit build, so nobody is running it. And this further solidifies that apparently Shadowpan is what they want you to play. Like Windwalker, just there has been nobody from the community, and like filtering out the voices that just want to hate everything or think that every change is stupid and dumb, and Blizzard's run by little bitch boys who don't know what they're doing, and what it like, you know, filtering out all that shit. Decent voices within the Windwalker community are like, cool, so we're not playing Conduit. And we were talking about this on stream, that Conduit previously was slightly ahead of Shadowpan, but was more difficult to play. And really, like, the design goal should be that if something is more complex to play, if it's played perfectly, it should just beat out the simple option. We'll see if they like this is, and I guess this is the other caveat for everybody that's watching this. This is the first set of tuning. This is initial tuning, not even when Mythic's out. So we have 2 more rounds of tuning?
Three
rounds
We've
of
got
tuning.
one in the following week as well, so we may very well be looking at another set of blue posts like in a week's time as well.
Yep. And so for anybody who's like reacting to this now, chill, put down the pitchforks, put down the torch. I actually agree with Blizzard taking maybe a little bit more of a wait and see approach with certain things. Like there are classes in here that needed help and they're getting help, and classes that were overperforming, like Guardian, that needed to be brought down a peg. Then they're going to have a week's worth of normal and heroic raid. They're going to have daily M0s where people are going to be running with all of these changes. I don't mind them not doing big swings shit for like every class in the game and just doing it a little bit more directed. And I can guarantee you wouldn't like it if they did big swing shit, because the more you change in a broad sense, the more room you have for errors, because at the end of the day, like the Blizzard devs are just, they're devs, they're people. They're like, they're not omniscient, they're not whatever, and they're going to do the best thing they can in the face of data. And I know there are going to be people who are like, no, you won't. Look at X rogue spec or whatever. But like, they're people. They're going to do what they can with the data that they're seeing, whatever the loudest voices are, whatever. And you can't expect them to be perfect. But they are showing that they want to do stuff with balance. Anyway, before I have the pitchforks coming for me. Mistweaver, Shailen's Gift, healing increased by 60%. Shailen's Gift Clouds now increased its healing by 10% per stack, was 33. Jadefire Teachings increased transfer rate of ancient teachings by 260%, was 200. Way of the Crane now transfers 340% damage onto one ally, was 125% onto 3 allies. So much bigger healing onto a single target there. Jadefire Stomp damage now transfers into ancient teachings, 20% effectiveness. Developer notes, Jadefire Stomp's tooltip will be updated to reflect this in a later patch. So Mistweavers, it'll say something, but it's doing the opposite. Invigorating Mist healing increased by 30%. Good for Mistweavers. No idea if it's good for them, and I won't speak to it. Paladin Retribution. All right, this is your area, Boggy. I am going to rattle this off, and you tell the people whether it's good or doo-doo. Ret, Final Verdict, up by 30%. Light Within, main target damage, up by 25%. Templar Slash and Templar Strike damage, up by 25%. Melee damage, increased by 25%. Just melee damage, not auto attack. Melee damage. Crusading Strikes damage increased by 25%. Crusading Strikes now reduces auto attack speed by 20%, improved from 35%. So for anybody who's reading this and doesn't understand, Crusading Strikes had an auto attack speed reduction effect it going from 35 to 20 is an improvement. You are getting less of an attack speed reduction. High Lord's Judgment damage increased by 25%. Divine Storm damage reduced by 12%. Get wrecked, nerds. Shut down your Discord. Herald of the Sun, Dawnlight damage increased by 25%. Herald of the Sun, Dawnlight now cleaves 4% of the damage it deals to enemies, was 5%. Templar, Empyrean Hammer damage increased by 30%. Templar Wrathful Descent now deals 35% of Empyrean Hammer's damage, down from 50%, so small nerf there. Templar Hammer of Light damage increased by 10%. All right, so that was a lot of information. Boggy, how are you feeling?
So overall, it is a positive. It's a massive single target buff. So it's a massive
Okay.
raid buff for Ret. I am a little sad to see that they are once again they just seem to want Ret players to play Templar, and that's it. We haven't had a single instance since the release of the hero talents where Herald of the Sun has been a viable pick, and this is sort of swinging in that direction.
Which is really sad. I think Herald of the Sun, if I were to main Ret, I would be really drawn to that as a hero.
It's
talent.
very fun. It is very fun, and it's very visually appealing as well. I think
that's the big draw for me. It's purely on aura farming. Yeah.
It looks very good. In saying that, so this for Ret it's a massive buff for raid. It'll be a huge. I saw the numbers somewhere. I won't say percentages because I cannot recall them off the top of my head now, but it is in the north of 10 region. I think what we'll see in keys, it definitely won't push Ret into a push meta by any stretch. Ret's problem has never been its output; it's always been its damage profile as a whole. But I think,
because you've said many times Ret's damage is yucky, and I was going to ask you about that because this is a single target buff. This doesn't change its position as not having that big priority damage that you needed.
No, not really.
Because your spender, you can't use Final Verdict. You have to Holy Storm when there are multiple targets.
You do, unless you play.
Sorry, Divine Storm.
You have to Divine Storm in AoE, just en masse. You will get a little bit of a damage increase if you're playing Divine Arbiter, but I don't even know if DA actually functions the same as it did in the past. So realistically, the only way that Ret is ever going to have its damage profile fixed is if they fundamentally rework parts of the spec. It has some prior damage. Obviously, you use your Hammer of Light on your main target, but the vast majority of Ret's damage comes from Empyrean Hammer procs and Divine Storm in AoE, which is just indiscriminate AoE. En masse, though, I think what you'll see is Ret will now do much better damage in raid. It will probably crank in your weekly keys still. You'll see Ret's doing lots of damage in sort of your low to mid-level Mythic Plus, and it'll just fall off at the higher level. Basically, Ret's lot in life for the last 3 years. That has just been Ret Paladin for 3 years, so...
This really does highlight to me, for anybody who's curious about the way that classes are chosen in terms of race to world first, high level guilds, whatever else. And this is something Max has spoken about quite a bit, is that the best classes that always succeed very well in raid are people that can do AoE without having to give up their single target, and they can do single target without having to give up their AoE. And any class that can do that will naturally be pushed above in terms of a raid setting. Depending on the raid design, if you've got one which is just all single target bosses, there are no AoE, then it doesn't fucking matter. But that has not really been the case for any raid in history, and same for not every boss is an AoE. We've got ads coming in, we've got whatever. There is usually a mix, and good, well-designed raids are going to have a mix. So Ret suffering from that problem means that they will be very good at doing one or the other, but they don't do both well, which means that you don't see stacking of Rets. You will still potentially take one in those higher settings where your comp actually matters quite a bit. But it's the reason why you don't see stackings of them. They would have to be doing a ludicrous amount of damage.
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And Ret has fallen into that bracket for quite a while now, where it has to be doing absurd damage to be taken. And look, realistically, there would be a lot of raid comps that wouldn't even take one. You need one paladin in the group for Devo Aura, but if you can get that via Holy Pelly or Prop Pelly, you'd normally rather do that and then take a class that's more suited to the fight that's going on in front of you
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know exactly where this puts Ret in terms of like relative terms, like next to the
Mhm.
other DPS in Raid. I
Yeah.
imagine that we could see some like a Ret. We won't see two. Like I can very confidently say that it'll be one.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be one or none. It'll be one
Yep.
or they'll take a Holy Pelly. I think
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
be one of
Yeah.
those two because I'm imagining that the tank slot is probably going to be Blood Death Knight Monk if I was to guess.
Mm.
Um, I can't see Prop Pelly being the choice, but like I could be wrong there. So I imagine that it'll be either one Ret or a Holy Pelly, but I'd be surprised if it was both.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That is the only changes for paladins. So Rets are the only people who got adjustments, for better or worse. And notice that there was nothing to do with judgment. I did see there's High Lord's judgment, but that's it. That's the only judgment that appears in here. I did see an article that somebody put out that like judgment is not worth pressing. I think it was a Wowhead article. Judgment is not worth pressing even for Lightsmith Holy Paladins. So I don't know how much of a problem it actually is. Obviously, and I can't speak to it because
it's not
it's one of those
really.
things where I only read the headline because I'm not really a paladin person. I'm not inclined to like click on it. I probably should have. But I would be interested to see how the first week shakes out because I'll be watching a lot of streams and picking up a lot of stuff. I am keen to see where it falls and where people are expecting the comps to go, but I won't continue to beat that horse. Priest. Discipline, penance damage, and healing increased by 20%. Griff was really unhappy with his Disc Priest when I was running my first M0 World Tour. We'll see if this is worthwhile. I know that like there were some Disc Priests that weren't even pressing penance because it did so little. Shadow, all damage by 10%. Shadow Word Death, damage increased by 40%. Mind Blast, up by 20%. Mind Flay, up by 20%. Idol of Nazoth, 20%. Shadow Word Madness, 20%. Psychic Link now causes direct damage spells to inflict 20% of their damage to all other targets inflicted by Vampiric Touch was 60%.
Listen, have no idea how to tune Psychic Link. I'll find a graph. I saw it on the competitive WoW sub earlier today. I'll put it on screen, but they cannot get Psychic Link right. It's like the graph basically will show that it's just like they go up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down. They can't seem to get it in a spot where they're actually happy with it.
Yep.
And it's a shame because a lot of Shadow Priest's AoE comes from Psychic Link. So
Yeah.
I still remember in Dragonflight, it's not quite as extreme at the moment, but in Dragonflight, the way that Psychic Link scaled AoE damage, even slight adjustments were causing like massive number differences. So there was a point in one of the seasons where it was like, I reckon it was Dragonflight season 3, where it was like you were never playing a Shadow Priest. And then they were like, oh, Psychic Link up to 40% from 30%. And then all of a sudden they were doing more damage than every other class in the game. Like,
Yep.
it's
It's the nature of spread multi-dot cleave because it's kind of the last class that does it. Even, like affliction locks don't do badly with it, but have been changed so many times that they just don't do what Shadow Priest does now. And it is something of like, if every class is expecting all of the mobs to be grouped up in one place and then doing all their damage and, not even getting into the conversation about target caps and whatever existing for some classes and not for others. But if you've got a class, especially in raid fights, where they design it, and think about Nathria, where you had multiple ads on different like platforms, whatever else, everybody else has to use a mechanic to get over to that platform. Shadow Priests and at the time Affliction Locks, because that was when Rapture came out. And so you could just dot up everything and then just Rapture from wherever you were and just smack everything. They just sit on the main platform. They don't give a shit. They're a honey badger. This is like hanging out, just being dudes, just like doing their thing. And so, yeah, it is a hard knob to tune. I don't know what the solution is. I know that, fuck, why is my brain betraying me? The priest guy, he like does like every video on Shadow Priest. He goes on with Max to do the tier list. Fuck, I can't believe that I'm forgetting the name. But like, I know that he has been like just leaning into the meme of Psychic Link at this point. Like, it's the 57th iteration of Psychic Link, and now there's a different one, whatever. But yeah, so Shadow, big DPS numbers, honestly. All damage by 10, and then a bunch of key abilities by 20%. That is not nothing.
It maths out to a single target buff and an AoE nerf in the end. And I think the AoE nerf is all tied to Psychic Link. So like they buffed everything else, but they nerf Psychic Link, which is an AoE nerf. So it's that's what it maths out to be. I don't think it's a huge swing though, one way or the other. Like it's not. We're not talking like Guardian Druid levels of like
yeah.
It's sort of like a within 10% for each of those, from what I understand.
Gotcha. Rogues, the only spec getting a change is Sub Rogue. Now, Sub is probably my favorite of the Rogue specs. Every time I think about like, would I main Rogue for a season, I'm like, only if Sub's good. I'm not really drawn to Outlaw. Arse Rogue is like fine, but I've never really been an Arse man, but I'm a Sub man. Or step on me as much as you can. So, Sub Rogue's got Backstab, Gloom Blade by 20%. Shadow Strike, 15%. Eviscerate, 8%. Melee Auto Attack by 15%. Black Powder damage reduced by 12%. So, obviously, Blizzard is looking at, overperformers in AoE, but giving them single target. Potent Powder, bonus Black Powder damage reduced to 20% of Mastery was 30%. Trickster, Unseen Blade damage increased by 20%. Trickster Nimble Flurry effect reduced to 50% of listed attack damage was 65. And Trickster Clever Combatant crit bonus for Shuriken Storm reduced to 10% was 15. So, I was watching Shindig's Sub Rogue guide video because I just randomly splash into shit just for like no reason. And he was already saying that Trickster was what you take. It was just strictly ahead of its other option. This is really good single target damage for Rogue. I don't know the exact result of it, but AoE down a little bit, and then it's single target, like even just the 8% eviscerate, because it's its main spender and it's the source of a good majority of its damage. That is very, very, very nice to get. Then we go on to a class that I am looking at as one of my mains. The old Shammy. Little Johnny Shim Sham. Elemental. Chain Lightning damage increased by 10%. Earthquake damage increased by 10%. Huge. Well, not huge, but like, it's nice to see numbers go up. Enhancement. All damage increased by 8%. Lightning Bolt by 10. Chain Lightning by 10. Primordial Storm by 10. Now, this puts me in a difficult position, Bog. Because Jay is really picking between two classes. Mage is a lock. 100% is the primary main. But I've got a Shaman and a Windwalker that I've been developing this entire time. And I've got to pick one. And I'll still M+ with the other. And this makes my choice so difficult because I was wanting love for enhancement. I said so in our stream. I really hope enhancement gets love. And it wasn't our stream. It was when I was co-streaming with Natch doing my first stream together. And he brought up that Connie was like absolutely praying for enhancement buffs. And this is a very, very good enhancement buff.
It's large. I don't know the numbers. I haven't heard, but I would guess it is in the teens. You get an 8% aura plus the ability damage buff. So
spenders up by 10. Yeah. So I do love enhance. I really do. I enjoy elemental as well, but I'm a big fan of enhancement. However, I've never gotten to main a Windwalker outside of SOD, but that was with an unstable guild that fell apart halfway through it, so it hasn't been for an entire tier. And the Windwalker set is maybe the most fucking giga thing that I've ever seen. And I desperately want it more than anything. But I can get it through M+, which, the drip is nice, but I would be able to get it because as soon as you get it to, because I will get myth pieces eventually. either through like weekly resets or whatever. I may even just take the Windwalker in through like reclears once the guild is completely on farm and I've got a Windwalker at a decent eye level. I'm sure that Sov wouldn't have a problem with that with farm bosses where like the gear's starting to become completely irrelevant. However, I don't know which one to pick. I really don't. I really don't. So Blizzard has put me in a tough spot, and I don't know where I'm going to go. But Resto, Healing Rain, healing increased by 45%. Chain healing increased by 20%. This is just good news for shamans. This is just really good. Like Elemental Shaman is just spamming Chain Lightning, Earthquake up by 10%. I did feel because I ran Elemental for like I pugged some the last M0s that I needed because I had a little bit of a split up clear. And first off, pugging was fucking horrendous. You have tanks who pull one pack at a time. You have people that are barely doing damage, healers that don't do healing, people don't kick, people don't stun, people don't whatever. Anyway, I hated myself. And because of that, I was looking at Elemental's numbers and I felt like I was doing absolutely nothing and I had a 2-minute cooldown that I was having to spend on like 3 or 4 mobs, which feels so goddamn bad. But I did feel like the AoE was a little bit anemic, especially outside of Ascendance. So having your primary AoE spender in Earthquake and then your main filler ability up by 10% will be nice. See how it pans out for them. Warlock, Destro is copping nerfs. Now, I didn't know Destro was doing this well, but
it's another single target buff AoE nerf from memory. I don't know exactly how it's panned out, but yeah, it's sort of now that I mention
shadow panned out.
Very good. If it had shadow panned out that way, they wouldn't have got touched. Please, Blizzard, don't touch them, please.
True. So Hellcaller, and this is all for Hellcaller. Zalan's Cruelty now increases shadow damage by 5%, was 8. Zalan's Ferocity now increases fire damage by 5, was 8. Blackened Soul damage reduced by 50%. Through the Fellvine now increases Rain of Fire damage by 6%, was 8. Through the Fellvine now increases Chaos Bolt damage by 35%, was 10%. So there's that single target buff to Chaos Bolt. And then you've got Demonology, the probably setting up to be the big bad of the expansion. Dominion of Argus and Tauren Inquisitor damage reduced by 5%, and Tauren Jailer damage reduced by 45%, Lady Sacrilash damage increased by 35%, and Grand Warlock Alethus damage increased by 35%. Developers notes, the intention with these adjustments is to ensure that all demons summoned by Dominion of Argus are competitive with one another, avoiding random chance having a large effect on damage output, which is a nice design goal. It is. Soul Harvester, and all of these are for Soul Harvester hereafter. Demonic Soul damage reduced by 55%. Manifested Demonic Soul damage reduced by 50%. Soul Anathema damage reduced by 35%. Wicked Reaping damage increased by 50%. Demoniac's Fervor now increases damage dealt by Demonic Soul by 200% to the main target of Hand of Gul'dan. Now, I am not enough of a Warlock enjoyer or understander to say where this lands. Have you heard anything, I assume, from Kalamazoo?
I haven't. It's from what I can gather, they've taken it out the back and shot it for their AoE. I don't know what it's done to their single target.
Okay.
Which, to be fair, Warlock was probably second just behind Guardian Druid for like doing too well. It's so
they definitely work.
Yeah, this is a situation where it's sad if you're a demo Warlock, but at the same time, it was well overperforming. Like it was gapping other specs. So like from what I can gather, this is a very substantial AoE nerf.
Okay, all right. So then our last one, Warriors. Piercing Howl's cooldown increased to 90 seconds, was 30 seconds, and ally speed buff radius reduced to 6 yards, was 12 with Battlefield Commander. Developers notes, Piercing Howl has been available more frequently than intended and does not align with other similar effects, so I'm making changes to bring this ability in line while keeping it distinct among other similar effects. Arms Warrior. There's just one line here. For the health of the game, we are nerfing arms by 25%. Oh.
Suck it, arms.
No, so it's actually the opposite. Master of Warfare's final rank, Heroic Strike, now increases the damage you deal to enemies affected by the next Colossus Smash by an additional 3%, stacks up to 5 times, and then all damage dealt increased by 15%. So, Arms Warriors, you no longer get to make the joke of like, oh, Devourer Demon Hunter's doing good, may as well nerf Arms. I know I just made that joke and then I'm making fun of them, but that's like, I know I'm a hypocrite. Get off my fucking back. 15% all damage, and then Master of Warfare's final rank, Heroic Strike, increasing Colossus smash damage by 15%. On paper, looks really good. Fury, all damage dealt by 10%. Sorry, I mispronounced that. Furry. Slayer, chance for Reap the Storm to trigger chance was changed to 20%, was 30%. So all damage up, Slayer a little bit down. Prot Warrior. I almost said Prot Pally. I'm so used to saying that with you because it's all just Pally shit. Phalanx rank 1. Thunderclap now causes your next shield slam to deal 10% additional damage and unleash a wave of force, dealing physical damage to all enemies in front of you. Phalanx rank 4. In addition to existing effects, enemies damaged by Phalanx wave of force deal 5% reduced damage to you for 8 seconds. All damage dealt increased by 10%. Developers notes these changes are aimed at redistributing the power of Protection Warrior's Apex talents to better align with their design goals for Apex talents. So this is what you were saying before. Prot Warrior just getting a damage buff.
Their design philosophy for Apex talents is everyone has to use them, nerds.
Click them.
Which
Click
I
them.
don't actually think that it's landed for Warrior. I was listening to Kira's video earlier today, and he was still saying that there's like that Prot doesn't want to use its Apex talents. It wants to use those extra talent points in its talent tree. So I can see a world where Prot Warrior ends up getting another buff, even though I think this is actually like making it do fairly good damage. It's not insane, but it's like a 10%-ish sort of buff. But the fact that most of the talents don't compete with, I think the Apex talents were like a 4% overall buff when you take every single Apex talent. And it was just better to take other talents in the tree. So whether that results in it depends which way Blizzard decides to swing. They will either, I imagine that the intelligent way to go about it will be to buff the Apex a little bit and nerf some of the talents in the tree. What I could see them doing if they're a little bit like heavy-handed with it is just nerfing the talents in the tree, which would suck if you're a Prot Warrior.
I think that would be a massive misstep from Blizz.
Or they really heavily buff the Apex talents, which would then actually make Warrior do absurd damage. There's got to be some middle ground there, I think. Otherwise, they're gonna drop the ball with it.
Did you know that Enhancement Shaman, if you take Stormbringer, you only put 2 points in your Apex talents because it opens up Primordial Storm for you, which is like a big AoE spender.
Oh, and then you use the rest on the so you take 2. So it is.
So your 2 Apex talents, if you don't take the last 2 ranks, you lose out on Maelstrom weapon spending abilities, deal 15% increased damage, weapon imbuements deal 20% increased damage, and then the Crash Lightning electrocutes the area and increases weapon enhancement effect by now increases auto attack speed by 15%. But that is actually worth it because what you're getting is Surging Elements, which is when you cast Sundering, which is basically like a semi-big button to press every 30 seconds. You get 15% haste and generate 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. And then Primordial Storm, which just deals like 108% attack power of Storm, Flame Strike, and Storm Strike damage, and unleashes a Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning at 150% effectiveness. Like, it's just... you auto attacking faster and having a little sizzling lightning thing on the ground does not compete with that sort of shit. Now, as far as I know, for Totemic, and it really fucking triggers me because there is I won't name them, but there's a couple of enhancement smaller creators that say Totemic, and I'm like, Totemic. Anyway, my triggering aside, I'm fairly certain for Totemic, you still take your Apex talents, yes you do, because the left side of their tree with Lightning Strikes and Thunder Capacitor are just strictly not better than what you get from the other one. But yeah, Enhancement is also in that position, and it really just kind of does speak to, with Stormbringer's current tuning, it really needs all the damage it can get. and Primordial Storm really gives it that. Whereas Totemic being on a 1 minute cooldown, having like a really good burst window, already wanting to take Primordial Storm and not really wanting the others, not running Ascendance, not running all that sort of shit. It just like, yeah, yeah. So, everybody, that is the balance changes, which very exciting. I always do like getting balance changes, whether they're buffs, nerfs, whatever. And I've said the same of the 40k meta that like the last thing I want is a stale meta where everything is just exactly the same way for long periods of time. I think it just gets incredibly boring. I understand it at the end of a season because they've already done a bunch of balancing passes. They don't want to do shit with it. So like playing the game at the end of last X Pack when I came back and did like Ret Pally, Windwalker Monk, Havoc Demon Hunter, just a bunch of stuff for the love of the game, just because I wanted to play. That was fine living in that meta, but I do like change sometimes for change's sake. And I know that might not be a popular opinion, but I like when the meta is refreshed.
Depends when you do it. And this is probably coming from like the
Yes.
Mythic Plus angle, is I really dislike it when they decide to do tuning passes late in a season, because
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of the strategies that you incorporate into push keys they're not based around output so much. Like you're taking like the higher output specs a lot of the time, but the true thing that actually makes it really difficult to, because you think like, oh well, if I just take this class out and put this other class in, it shouldn't be that bad. It is really bad because most groups are coordinating their stops, their kicks, their utility, everything around having a very set list of them. Like I even remember like Shorus and Raynons in, I reckon it was like season 2, they were like, you'd have to really, even when they were doing their sale runs for their title keys, it was, they were
Mm,
often only taking specs that were fitting into the meta for the harder keys,
yeah, yeah.
because of the fact that their entire plan for the dungeon was based around that spec existing there. And if it
Yep.
didn't, then it was like the adapting was like probably, it would have been possible, but it was extremely difficult, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I hate when they change it late in the season, because a lot of the planning is based around, we have either this comp or this comp, and we can adjust for maybe a couple of like, your A plus
Yeah,
tier
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of fringe meta specs. But
Yep. And
um,
and I can absolutely agree with that because you've also got the opportunity cost of like, hey, just switch up the spec. Well, okay, what does that look like in reality? You've got class fluency is completely out the window because you've got players that have been playing something else for the longest time, doing that in keys. They've got at that point probably hundreds of reps. Not only in the dungeon, but in the dungeon with a specific set of tools,
mhm.
with stuff that they can press to react to things, whatever, and that won't be there straight away. So you immediately push them back in that regard. Then you've got okay, how about you just these characters that you've had bunch of weekly resets of myth gear, that myth gear that you can't get access to right now because you need weekly resets if you're an M plus only player. Like that is also a really big deal. Where I will disagree with people is people that are outside of that like high push. Because I spent time like leveling, like I said, Windwalker, Havoc Demon Hunter, and Ret Paladin. And I was completing up to like 16s on them
I will
with like
preface,
not everything in myth gear and whatever else.
yeah,
And so like it's not like it's not doable. The same things that are going to lock out people that are pushing for title are not the concern of people lower than that. But I know for a fact there will be people that'll go, oh yeah, see, they can't do it, so therefore I can't do it, and we're the same. And it's strictly just not the case.
no,
And it's an
it's,
externalization used
yep.
to avoid the fact that they are uh succumbing to other parts of the game, but blaming something that affects somebody who is not in the same realm as them.
It is 100%. That's 100% the case. And I will say too that, like, just quickly, when it comes to tuning, Blizzard, as much as I would love them to, realistically should tune the game around the broader player base and not just what the
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
like the top end want. We just sort of have to make do with what happens. I have what the things, so the things that I want to see aren't necessarily the things I should see or I think I should see. Um, v-
Max has had the same sentiment
yeah,
so many times.
yeah, exactly. But like you're 100% right, and I think even just like my most recent like video I did on my personal channel, I sort of brought this up as well. At least specifically for Mythic Plus and for Raid as well, right? So it's the same
Yep.
across the board. Up to say, well, like let's just say for Raid up to like Heroic, and for keys up to like Keystone Legend, so like 3K, you your comp doesn't really matter all that much. Like you kind of want it to make sense, but like you could probably get 3K very comfortably by running Guardian Druid, Resto Druid, and 3 Balance Druids, and just
Yeah.
play good.
Yeah.
If you just play good,
Yep.
you'll be fine. Um, when you're going between 3K to title, and for rating Mythic to probably maybe the last boss or two, you still don't need to pay attention to what the meta is to much of an
Mm.
extent. It's worth attending to what the groups are doing and being more mindful of the structure of your own group. But the comp at the top end is still largely
Mm.
irrelevant for you. And then,
Yeah.
so realistically, for Mythic Raid, I think that goes through for any guild that isn't in sort of like a Hall of Fame guild. Like Hall of Fame guilds are
Yeah.
different
Yeah. Yeah.
because they need to do things quickly. If you're just doing like if you're playing in a guild that's just we do Mythic Raid, we get CE by like 2 months before the end of the patch. Your
Mm.
comp just has to make some decent sense, and it's not really reliant on like tuning quite as much.
And it was actually something that I was going to bring up, that like it it might look like a measure of hypocrisy, me sort of saying that, and I do want to say to people that it's not to minimize that it feels shit having your class nerfed. I don't want to minimize that at all. Like that is a very reasonable human response, that we don't like when the game, especially for me as a sweaty unga bunga, I like to make number go up sort of class. If I stop making my number go up, then that feel bad, because me no make number go up. But it's not to minimize that, but like I am in a guild, or sorry, a raid team within my guild that is doing splits, that is doing multiple classes, and there is value for that because we're pre-planning it. We want to have options. We want to, like, especially if you see certain choices within the meta, if you're able to go, oh, cool, like this one's doing really well, or it opens up on this fight being able to do X strat. Hey, Jay, can you jump on your Windwalker because you've got uh, Transcendence Transfer, you've got Ring of Peace, you've got all this sort of stuff that your mage just doesn't have. If I can just slot that in and be useful to my raid team, that is a major boon. Having said that, there's no chance that if my mage or my shaman or my windwalker cop a reasonable nerf, I'll say reasonable nerf, that Sov's going to be like, all right, Jay, you're just not in the raid. Like, sorry, man, just find another raid team. Like, there's no way that that's going to happen. So it's really what we are doing, and why I agree with doing the splits, doing multiple characters, putting in all that effort, is because it gives us options, which is a perfectly reasonable thing for a raid team to want to do. And there have been times where I have mid-tier re-rolled to a class because the raid leader's been like, okay, we can clear this without it, but if somebody's willing to, and we funnel you gear, we help you with M plus, all that sort of stuff. If somebody's willing to go to a class, we open up X number of options for ourselves,
And a lot of
and it
that too
becomes
would like come.
easier.
Yeah, and it would come down to like mid raid tier. You might have one monk in the team, right? Because that is
Mm,
often the case. You might only have one of a certain class, and that person decides,
100%.
you know, I can't play anymore. My computer just blow up. I just stood on
Mm,
my
mm.
cat. Like I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
whatever
You'll
reason
have
it
to
might.
speak up. I'm wearing a towel. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
so in that situation, it makes sense. It's like you can clear the raid without that raid buff.
Yep.
But if someone can do it, it's a good thing to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I will say too, when it comes to like raid meta versus M plus meta, it's a lot less restrictive. So I probably would advocate for, especially in the early days, if you see the race to world first guilds doing some weird shit like playing like 6 mages or something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
don't think you have to play 6 mages. You really don't.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
It's the
The,
thing.
the one time that it was like massively beneficial was when oh sorry, I won't say the one time, but the it sticks out to me in recent memory. Again, talking about Undermine, I know that I've beaten that drum a couple of times, but Windwalker was just so ridiculously overtuned. Like talking about Rhett, where Rhett and Windwalker are kind of a similar animal, where to take multiple of them, they have to be absurd. And Windwalker was fucking absurd. I think Liquid was running 3 Windwalkers in their comp and were just able to squeeze them in while keeping their raid buffs and whatever else. But Windwalker was so fucking absurd that they had, and like they hadn't planned for it. So they actually had people re-roll very quickly, get funneled, all that sort of like just to meet that as an outcome.
And the other thing too with Raid is that like you've got more people in the group, so you can more easily make up for the downfall of one spec.
Oh yeah, M+ is so much harder.
Yeah. So that's why you'll see a lot more rigid group structures when you start to get towards the top end, because the onus on each spec is a lot higher proportionally compared to Raid. But all of that is to say, I would. Realistically, it's that sort of advice that you give where it's like the people that this doesn't apply to probably wouldn't really be listening at this point anyway. So like, you know, you can sort of pretty comfortably say it. Play basically something that you enjoy is really the gist of it. Like class power is not going to impact you greatly if your goals are like, and that's the thing, right? Is that if someone's pushing for title, they're probably not sitting here listening to my advice pushing for title. Like I'm a fringe title player. Like anyone else pushing for title is either about the same knowledge as me or just much, much better. The same goes for rating, right?
Like, they might just want to listen to you because they get to see you on camera and just look at your beautiful face.
True. Thank you if anyone is here that is doing such a thing. But I know it's a bit of a trope, but like I would largely ignore the tuning to like aside from it being like just for interest's sake. I pay a lot of attention to it for interest as much as I do like theory crafting what potential like comps might look like going into Mythic Plus. The thing is though, we have 3 more tuning passes. Like there is a world, it is very unlikely, but on the absolute extreme, they could nerf Brewmaster Monk 3 times in a row and buff Blood DK defensively 3 times in a row. And the conversation in a month's time might be, man, how good is it that we've got a Blood DK meta when a month prior it looked like that was literally impossible. And that's the extreme. So things can change very quickly. I would pick one that you enjoy, and if you're looking at a competitive side of the game, try to squeeze it into what looks like what may be a reasonable pick, especially for Mythic Plus. If you raid, just play a DPS that suits you, like yourself and like your guild as well. That's probably the only caveat for raid, is that especially for something like Windwalker, Rhett, Rogue sort of fits into that boat as well, like Warlock. These mono DPS specs, if you're in a raid group that's got like 2 Warlocks already, you probably better off playing something that's not a Warlock if you know you're playing in that team. But I mean, we're close enough to the raid that most guilds that are even somewhat serious have already meshed out.
Already locked in their stuff.
They already know. So
and it is very, very true that those mono specs are also the most susceptible to tuning passes. And it actually perfectly segues me into something that I wanted to talk about on the back end of our thing, and that is like upcoming in the season release, it will kind of be the best time for people to get IO, because there's no established meta, there's no like whatever, everybody is just trying to push up their stuff and get people in. So as long as you've got a half decent eye level, then you're probably going to get invited to keys. However, later on when metas do start to establish, because as much as we talk about it and then it doesn't matter and whatever, we are a very, very small voice. And also, I don't even think big voices are going to stop stupid people from being stupid. So there will be things where like people will just continually get knocked back on these, not even fringe specs, but what the hive mind of the community that don't understand what we're talking about believe should be within the meta, or what they should be inviting or whatever, because they're trying to get a weekly 10 done and don't realize that like
I'm so looking forward to an augmentation meta where like groups are not going to invite anyone that isn't an org for the last DPS slot, even though it's
Yeah.
actually just a clear downgrade at that level. Like that
Yeah.
has happened so many times in augmentation metas where they're just like, we need an org evoker for this plus 13. It's like, no, you'd actually be better off not having one. Like, it's just this. What works at one level doesn't necessarily work at another. Ret Pelly is like the perfect example. It is like far and beyond, and has been for many, many patches, your best, like, I'm doing a plus 12. I need to clear this for Vault. You grab a, like, Ret Pelly. It's sturdy, lots of utility. Generally speaking, it's hard to come across bad Ret Pellies because, like, they're fairly simple to play.
You know, oh, you underestimate the WoW community, buddy.
I maybe more difficult, right? Like if you you pick
when something's easy to press its buttons, it's got a pretty even like damage profile. Yeah, it is. It's a similar thing to Windwalker. As long as I'm pressing Fist of Fury, I generally have a pretty like even amount of damage that's going out because all of my damage is in that one ability.
Yeah.
Whereas if I play like Arcane Mage, there's a bit that goes into getting all of your damage out, pressing your buttons at the right time, pressing them in the right order, you know, reacting to procs, whatever else. But you know, all of these are concerns that are going to be coming up in the eventual season because we're not dealing with stuff on paper. And that's the problem with looking at things in terms of like, from a philosophical standpoint, from a whatever, when it actually comes to how human beings are going to act, there will be a different thing that happens. So what can you, viewer that is trying to expand your brain to have a forehead the size of mine, to hold your brain in? I don't have a brain behind it, but the forehead's there. So I'm like, I'm ready for when the brain grows in. I've been told by Chelsea that it's going to come in, you know, around about 3 years after I die, but we'll see. We'll see. So the first thing that I will very, very, very highly recommend to help you get started within the season, one, let's assume that you have time to play at sort of the peak times. You take a day or two off work, you know, wait till the weekend, which still there won't be a meta established by the weekend after the reset. So let's assume you've got time to play. Get time in, get the IO that you can, take every gear upgrade you can. I am already spending my veteran crests because when the season release, like even on Wednesday, those veteran crests are going to become completely fucking irrelevant because we've got champion track. Now, I, in the team that I'm in, have to cap my veteran crest because that's a raid requirement. It makes sense. We want to push very fast. And you can do yourself a favor, even though it might feel superfluous. When you go into that week, if your IO is 1 or 2 higher than other people in the list, you will naturally be a more appealing target to get into groups. Spend those crests, cap them out, do random hunts. I've gotten to a point where I'm spending 6 minutes on a random hunt. You go random, hard. You head over to the area. You find the world quest that it pops up every time you pick up a prey. You go to that area and you just interact with traps. Now, Zorthus had a very good video talking about this. You just go around getting the traps. You do the world quest at whatever point you want, but those traps will continually spawn around that area, even after the world quest is done. 6 minutes, done, 15 crests on a random. I capped out my crests on my mage in like an hour. It was very, very easy, and that was after an M0 World Tour. So spend your crests. But the next thing that I'm going to recommend is find yourself a community. Now, Boggy's spoken about this a little bit, where the upper side of the M+ community is amazing. There's a Discord where everybody's helping each other out, not for their own personal gain, especially towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
it is to bring the community up with them. So, like, shout out to all of those guys, especially in the OCE community that Boggy has spent a lot of time around. There are wonderful people within this game, but they don't exist in pugs. They exist in community. The nature of pugging is that people want to get their shit done in the most efficient amount of time that they can. And if they don't do that, then they have a meltdown and a fucking tanty and whatever. That's where you will probably find, in my opinion, the more toxic elements of the game. Now, it's not to say that every community is great, and you will have to search around. For anybody that is wanting a community, I cannot recommend Woolly enough. It is a massive guild. It has like 6 or 7 raid teams at this point. They are like always running M+.
It's like in the teens.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's actually like 11 or 12 or something. 11 or 12 raid teams, maybe more. It's
Yeah,
I'll
and
have
I
to have
can
a look
tell
at it.
you very, very genuinely that I went through the difficult process of bouncing raid teams to go from normal raiding to heroic to mythic, and I went through some of the worst raid teams that you could possibly find. Terrible idea fairy people who are like, "Oh yeah, let's just hey you the DKJ, we know you're doing top damage, so you probably won't lose anything if you just spend all your runes on Chains of Ice because we don't want to follow what the race to world first are doing in terms of a strat. So like, can you just slow all these mobs down?" And then I start doing no damage and nothing's dying because I'm the only person doing damage. And they're like, "Oh, what happened? Anyway. So if you would like to join Wooly, you are looking for a community and a raid team. First step, down in the description, there is Boggy's Discord. You want to be in that. Go down there, and Boggy has set up a way for you to get in contact with one of Wooly's leadership. I've already spoken to Sov and Zan about getting something which is a little bit more of a streamlined joining process. They do protect against bots and whatever else, so that's why we don't just post like indiscriminate links or whatever, because that would be just fucking stupid. That's kind of the other side of the community, is it is very, very well moderated. It is a place for everyone, which is not something I can say of a lot of communities.
I did touch base with Sov, and he was happy for me. So I have the Discord access in my own Discord channel,
Yep.
so that like and he was happy for people to come in through that
Yep.
means. If yeah, obviously you can join my Discord if you just want to get the link to the Woolly Discord and you don't want to stay in mine, then that's fine. It's not like a
No,
not
stay in it. Stay in it.
stay
Join
in
Boggy's
it.
Discord. Otherwise, you're a big dumb stupid idiot.
But in saying that, it's yeah, fantastic community. I will say, just for those who are potentially looking for more like Mythic Plus focused communities, I don't necessarily have one to shout out. They are, generally speaking, not just in OS, but like outside of it, are very friendly, but they're a tiny bit insular to begin with, which makes sense.
Yeah,
You're playing
yeah.
with a very like sort of narrow band of the player base. What I would
And very
recommend,
dedicated.
very
Yeah.
dedicated people who play a lot. What I would recommend though is if you are pushing keys, you will naturally find yourself in some of these Discord servers most of the time. It just sort of happens because like at a certain point, even pugs are going to want voice comms to complete keys because they get to a level of
Oh,
difficulty
absolutely.
where like no
Yeah.
comms is actually really hard. Once
Yep.
you find yourself in one, and once you've sort of vetted people to be, you know, like decent people, try to go back to the community, even if you're not doing keys. Don't just like join and be like, hey, I got in, and then expect these people to just be reaching out to you, like
Yeah.
inviting you back. If so, the big thing with the Discord server that you sort of mentioned before is like I got an invite into Gal's server in season 1 because I was doing a key. And then
Mm.
when I sort of noticed, oh, there's a lot of people in here, um, the channel would often be full with people doing keys and a handful of other people just watching the key.
Mm.
Jump in. It feels really weird. You feel awkward. You feel like you're inserting yourself, but just jump in.
It's something I don't do. I should. I don't even do it in Wooly. Like, I don't just want to drop in on people's conversations, but it's something I should do more. But yeah.
And like you don't have to be the life of the party. You don't even have to say a great deal. Especially, by the way, if you're in one of these communities and someone's mid-key, shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. Like
Yeah. Obviously, be respectful.
Yeah,
That's the greater. Yeah.
If they are mid-key and they're streaming it in Discord, just jump in, mute your mic, and watch. And then in between, if you find an opportunity to say something, you know, say hi, like have a bit of a chit chat, you'll very quickly find that these communities are willing to accept people who are like, because the thing is, right, it's like I'm good at Mythic Plus, but I'm not that good. Like I'm decent. I'm a decent Mythic Plus player. The thing is that like I'm also not a dickhead. At least I don't think I am. So these communities
I
are
would be
generally
friends with you if you're a dickhead.
yeah,
That is like the biggest tick mark I can give you is I am very particular about the people I spend my time with.
oh, I like that. That makes me feel good actually. It's
Yeah.
but it is a case that like if you're in there and you are, you know, friendly, positive, you're just a generally nice person to hang around, these communities will like open up to you. Like they will allow you in. It's not, don't feel like it's this sort of like elite club. It's the fortunate thing with Mythic Plus is I actually think it's a lot easier for an outsider to work their way into the scene with, if they've got the effort, like, or the motivation
Mhm.
to do it. Raiding is a tiny bit different when you get to like the really high level, like Hall of Fame guilds, because you almost need receipts of where you've been. So like,
Well,
uh,
actually, I can speak to that a little bit with my experience having to guild hop and whatever else, to work my way up and kind of like I hate the saying "pay my dues,"
mhm.
but it is a relevant saying, even if some people like misuse it to the nth degree. Essentially, paying my dues was that I had to display class mastery and fight mastery and everything else, and the only way to do that was to not only play my class well, but continually look for communities where the fight was being done efficiently. I was around other people that were more skilled than the community that I left. And like that was because like anybody who's done any sort of decent rating will know your pass is worse the longer the fight takes, or the worse the strat is, where like you look at the difference between like a tank that will automatically pull a main boss onto where mobs are spawning, or a tank that just holds the boss where it is and tells people to go to the ads. Like it is a night and day difference in terms of the performance that you will have innately if you are already doing everything correctly. One of the key things, and this is, again to highlight the like track to success of like, we've been talking about spending credits, join communities, all that sort of stuff. One of the things that kept me pushing forward in these environments was that one, I was constantly evaluating my own performance and able to see factors that were holding me back, but not blaming any failure solely on those factors. It was the humility to look at still what can I do to improve myself while knowing that, all right, this is what I would like to change, but my failure of success isn't just about, oh, that tank pulled it over there. That's a very poor way to look at it. And I feel like it ties into your thing about M plus. I can guarantee, even without me having gone into title pushing myself, that if I tried to join the title pushing community and I was like not humble about going into it, having little experience, I was somebody who blamed or externalized a lot of stuff to other people, like I would quickly be labeled a dickhead.
Yeah, there's, especially the higher you get to, the smaller the community is. And I like, I won't name names or anything, but it happens every season in like the OC region, where you'll have sort of someone who's trying to come up through the ranks and are just not overly personable, and you will get ostracized. Like, and not
Yep.
deliberately. It's just like, these people, they happen every season. I see it every season. It's like there'll be a handful of players where it's like, you're good enough to play at a title level, but you're a tool, so nobody like you, they see your group and they just don't want to join.
Yeah.
So there is a big sort of, there's a big thing to be said about just being a decent person to play with.
Yeah.
I guess with the guild hopping, in terms of like moving your way up the ranks for mythic raiding, if that is more of your objective, that is probably another thing that Wooly gets another shout out for, is that because there's so many raid teams that exist within the same ecosystem,
Mm.
hopping up and down doesn't feel like you're hopping guilds. So like for me, right, like
So much better.
I
Yeah.
rejoined the game in Dragonflight after a fairly long
Mm.
break. I joined Wooly. I joined one of the one day heroic teams. I raided with them for half a season. One of the raid leaders, Zan, said, "Hey, would you like to do Mythic? We need we need a DPS." I said, "Yep, okay, cool, I'll do that." But even hypothetically, if I had raided the season and thought, "Oh, I'd like to do Mythic," I can then apply for another team within the guild. So I raided then with Phoenix, which was at the time like a sort of early to mid Mythic group. And then at the end of season 1 of War Within, I went, you know what? I'd like to get CE next patch. So I raided with Vanguard, the CE team, for a patch. And then I went, wait, playing 3 days a week in raid and doing M plus is actually kind of a lot. I kind of want to drop down. So then I did AOTC raiding the patch after in the same guild, still in Wooly. And then this patch, I'm doing mid-level Mythic again with Phoenix. Maybe CE. We'll see. They got CE once during the last expansion.
Yep.
But it is something to be said that, like, if you are joining a guild that has one raid team and then your objectives diverge from what that raid team can offer you, you do have to jump ship. It is what it is. It's so these mega guilds like Woolly's a fantastic community is great for that, because you can play at the level that you want and have the option of moving without feeling like you're going to leave all of your online friends behind as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's I think the reason why I have such a massive amount of love for Woolly, where I have never had a feeling like that about any other guild. Like I went through maybe like 12 guilds when I was sort of like hopping my way through. And it's all about when you're doing that, the only thing that matters is what Boggy was saying, receipts. You need logs. Logs are the only thing that people will look at for whether you're going to join a team or you're not. And it's not always just damage
Yeah,
numbers.
I was just going to say,
like
not
good teams. Yeah, will
good
look at
teams
like your
won't
damage
look at.
taken to
Yep.
avoidable damage,
Mhm.
your defensive usage, your utility usage, your were you health stoning, were you health potting, were you like all of this sort of stuff. Logs are what allow you to move. But one of the things that I've noticed being in Woolly for the amount of time that I have now is that one, you are still getting your logs together. They private log so that they stop people from like joining in and then just like using them as a leapfrog to go somewhere else, which is perfectly reasonable. But like those logs, I think do open up. Like you can personal log and
Oh,
still
you
be
can
able to like
if you really want to, if you
with you.
really want your own logs, you can just personal log
But one of the
anyway.
things that
But
I found is that once I saw the environment I was in, I didn't want to hop. There were so many different things of guild teams that would align with what I was wanting to do at that particular time. And when you move team, to add to what Boggy was saying, you had people that could speak to what you were like as a teammate.
mhm.
So with a new guild, I would go in and it wasn't just them when a trial started, because I had to trial so many fucking times. It wasn't just that they were assessing me, I was assessing them. And you don't know if you're going to align with a guild team. Like there was one where I dropped in and like everybody seemed cool. We did a raid night, whatever. Show up for the second raid night, and the first thing that somebody does is drop an M bomb in chat. And that for me, a little bit of J law. That for me is one of the words that if somebody says that to me, I'll give them a warning. But if they do it again, they're basically fucking dead to me. I had African American friends that I met before I went to Afghanistan. We had to go to the US, and they were not to put too much of a downer on it, but they were killed in the wake of George Floyd's murder. And so I have a very particular relationship with that word. And so that just immediately didn't align with me. As soon as I heard that, I was like, nah, this isn't the right team for me. Because nobody said anything about it. It wasn't somebody making a dumb mistake and a community saying that is not okay. It was just like, so I left. And when I left and went to another raid team, even though I had been a functioning member of that raid team, I had contributed, I was doing well, I was whatever, I didn't have the logs built up yet. So it wasn't a step up in terms of where I went. And then I was assessing a new group of people. I was assessing a new whatever. And over time in Woolly, you just get to kind of know everybody. Everybody's in chat, everybody's doing stuff, everybody's whatever, where I could go to any raid team in Woolly at the moment and I would roughly know what I'm in for. And that is something that is a very, very rare thing to find. And it is, again, a community where everybody has a certain expectation of treating each other with respect. Everybody has a certain expectation that, you know, we all are going to be decent fucking human beings, which is great.
There's been plenty of people that have been kicked for being dickheads as well. I've been in the guild for long enough to have seen it happen plenty of times. I will say though, if we've persuaded anyone, which I hope we have, it is an OC guild. So if you're NA, you'll have to play on 200 ping, which, you know, boohoo, we had to do
We
that
do
for
have some
years.
yanks that opt in for that because the community is good enough.
Yeah. What's going on with Luz these days? I haven't seen Luz for ages. Do you
I
remember
don't
Luz?
know. I honestly don't know. Yeah.
I fucking loved that guy. He was so good. He had to stop raiding with us because his doctor told him it was bad for his heart because he was staying up till like 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
And he was like working on his business. He wasn't getting enough sleep, so his health was deteriorating because of our raid times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just sort of a caveat that, like, if you are I mean, if you haven't already told from, I don't think mine or Jay's accent is that strong, but then American people talk to me and they're just like, whoa, Aussie accent. So it's probably very clear that we are from
Well,
Australia. But
we're a very real country that's somewhere on Earth,
mm,
and we're definitely not paid actors like people would make people
no,
believe. So
no.
yeah, we are definitely a real place with real people who talk
Hmm.
like this, just
Yep.
naturally.
Yep.
It didn't have to go to Juilliard for 4 years to learn how to change our voice completely. That'd be ridiculous, Boggy. Why would you even bring that up?
We're definitely not
My God.
throttling your ping to this very real location just to make it seem more obvious that
Yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
real
We're
location.
100% not penguins sitting on Antarctica in one of the abandoned research facilities playing World of Warcraft, slapping the keyboard with our little fins. Like, that'd be ridiculous. You can't even make AI avatars that look like humans. Like, that'd be insane.
Oh,
Anyway,
what if we are AI avatars? There's something to think about, everyone.
Boggy,
We might not be. Oh shit.
what are you doing?
Well, I don't know why my creator put that in the prompt that time. That was a bit weird.
Anyway, everybody, that's everything that I've got to talk about, Bog. At least for this episode, we are moving to a weekly schedule now, so I hope everybody is excited to hear from us every single week. I think next week we are going to be able to talk about our first week of normal and heroic rating.
Yep.
Both of us will be going in for that. Hopefully, at that point, my team will have cleared all of normal and potentially all of heroic in the first week. Would be really, really good. I'll probably be sitting on 2-set, maybe 4-set. We'll see.
What nights are you guys on? Are you doing the Friday? Was it the Friday as the fourth night, or was it
So as far as the news post that I've put up, I don't know that we are going to a 4-day rating straight away. Let me look at
so definitely Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, right? Like that's
Wednesday, Sunday, Monday,
Mhm.
100%. Where is the news post that said about the times? So yeah, week 1, Wednesday, Sunday, Monday. Week 2, Friday, Sunday. Oh yeah. So altered raid schedule, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So additional week 2 events, Wednesday 25th, M plus night with set groups. So it
Mhm.
looks like we'll be using the Wednesday to actually just hit M plus as hard as we can, which does make sense. Getting early hero and myth crests will be really, really big, as well as getting like hero track items at the end of the dungeons. That is a massive amount of gear, which means that when we roll in on the Friday, we are going to like obliterate shit. Hopefully, like gear does, especially eye levels as part of a team, are a really, really big deal in terms of how easy encounters can be or how hard they can be.
Well, I think we'll
So,
be in the same boat then. We'll both be rating this coming Wednesday.
yep.
I'll be just sending just one thing before we like finish up as well. I know we were
Yeah.
saying like push early in the season is a good thing. If you fall behind, it doesn't matter. At least in a Mythic Plus setting as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do want to just emphasize there is this sort of like community trope that I see of like, oh, I've got to keep pushing. I've got to keep up with all the good players. You don't. You don't. If you take a couple of weeks off, it may be a little bit more challenging. There is, believe it or not, like a somewhat of an elo hell when it comes to pushing keys. But you can work through it. And please, for the love of God, don't blame that on why you're not progressing with your IO. But it does exist.
I did 3 characters through Elo Hell with like variable amounts of gear and whatever else. Again, I will push this. A community helps so much, even just for like a couple of random ass keys or having somebody in queue who recognizes that you're from the same guild. There are a bunch of times where if I see Wooly that shows up in the guild in the queue, I will go, yep, cool, I take that person. He might be like 10 item levels below other people that I'm seeing in there. I will take that person.
Yep, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but yes, I guess just enjoy the season as well. Nerd out if you can and you want to. If you miss portions of the first week just because you don't get to know life it on day one, doesn't mean your season's over. Is probably the way to go. So,
and that being the end of our episode, make sure that you do all of the internet things. We are growing this channel as quickly as we can. So any of the likes, comments, sharing, all that sort of stuff does a massive, massive amount of help. Or don't. No, you dad. That is our episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. So from me.
and from me. Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you all. Enjoy your first week. Let us know in the comments how you go with your normal and heroic, or how you're going at the moment. And we will see you in the next episode.
Peace. I'm really bad at outros, aren't I? See ya.
Terrible. Terrible, but I love you anyway.